Have your legs started feeling weaker? Maybe stairs seem steeper, or you're just more tired, walking around the house. You might assume it's just part of getting older, something we all have to accept. But recent research tells a more hopeful story. It turns out the loss of leg strength many of us feel after 50 isn't just about age, not really. It's about signals between the nerves and the muscles. And the good news: there's something we can do to help those signals come back online. In fact, studies show that a single simple food, when eaten at the right time, can help reawaken your strength in as little as 12 hours. This isn't about magic pills or gym workouts. It's about understanding what's happening inside your body and how to give it the tools to respond. So today, we'll explore how specific nutrients can improve nerve-muscle communication, restore blood flow, and bring back the steadiness and energy we remember. We'll talk about what to eat, when to eat it, and how even a short morning walk can make a difference. If you're ready to feel stronger on your feet and more confident in your body, this is for you. Let's begin. Section 1. Why your legs feel weaker. If you've noticed yourself holding onto the railing a little more lately, or catching your breath at the top of the stairs when you never used to, I want you to know something important. You're not broken, you're not fading, and you are certainly not alone. Let's start with George. George is 67, retired mechanic, always active, always tinkering with his tools in the garage. But, over the past few years, he began noticing that his legs just didn't feel the same. He told me, "It's like I still want to move the same way, but my legs don't get the message." That's the perfect way to describe what science is now confirming. The problem isn't always weak muscles. Sometimes the problem is that the message from your brain isn't reaching your legs clearly, like a phone line with static or a radio signal cutting in and out. As we age, the connection between our nervous system and muscles can weaken. Not because we're lazy, not because we're doing something wrong, but because the body needs different fuel and care than it did at 30 or 40. This is what doctors now refer to as a neuromuscular disconnect, and it plays a much bigger role in leg weakness than we used to think. Here's what that means in plain terms. Inside your legs, you still have muscle fibers. They're not gone. They're just not being fully activated. Imagine your muscles like a team of workers. They're still there on the job site, but no one's flipping the switch to give them instructions. Why does this happen? There are 3 main reasons. First, the nerve endings that tell our muscles what to do, when to contract, when to stabilize, start losing sensitivity over time. That's not your fault. It's just part of how the nervous system changes with age. Second, our cells become undernourished not because we're not eating, but because our bodies become less efficient at absorbing the nutrients that matter most for strength, like specific amino acids and vitamins. And third, chronic low-grade inflammation builds up silently in the background. You can't feel it directly, but it dulls the body's response systems, including the ones that keep your legs energized and balanced. What does this all add up to? That feeling of standing up from a chair and needing a second before your legs catch up. That sensation of heaviness in your thighs when walking uphill. Or even that subtle shift in confidence where you used to walk quickly without a second thought and now you're more cautious watching every step. Now, here's the hopeful part. Even though these changes are common, they are not inevitable and they are absolutely not irreversible. Many of us grew up believing that getting older meant slowly losing our mobility. That it's just how it goes. But science today says otherwise. The truth is, our muscles are still capable. The wiring may be fuzzy, but it's still there, and with the right support it can be repaired, reactivated, and strengthened. That's what today's video's all about. Because even though George was starting to feel that slow decline, within days of changing just one part of his morning routine, things began to shift. He didn't lift weights, he didn't join a boot camp class. He just started eating one key nutrient-rich food at the right time, and within a week he told me his legs felt like they came back online. Not magically, but measurably. So if you've been thinking, this is just how it is now, I want to invite you to try looking at your body a little differently. Your legs don't just need more effort, they need more connection, and we can support that connection with the right fuel. In the next section, we're going to talk about the exact nutrient that helped George and thousands of others start rebuilding that connection between their nerves and their legs. It's something you've probably heard of. But what you may not know is that when taken the right way, at the right time, it can act like a light switch for muscle strength. Let's dive into that. Next section 2. Wake up the muscle signal. Leucine and mTOR. When George came to me, he had already tried walking more and even doing some light exercises, but nothing seemed to bring that familiar strength back to his legs. He told me, "I just feel like the power switch is off. I push, but nothing happens." And as strange as it sounds, he was describing a real biological truth. You see, inside every one of us at any age there's a system that acts like the muscle's internal light switch. When it gets flipped on, your body begins the process of building, repairing, and activating muscle fibers. That system is called mTOR. It stands for mammalian target of rapamycin, but don't let that scare you. All you need to know is this mTOR is the control center that tells your muscles to grow stronger. It's how your body says, let's rebuild, let's restore. But, like a light switch, it doesn't flip itself on. It needs a signal. And that signal, that trigger, comes from a specific nutrient called leucine. Now, leucine is something your body can't make on its own. It's what scientists call an essential amino acid, meaning we must get it from food. It's found in many protein-rich foods, but not all proteins are created equal. You might be thinking, I eat enough protein. I'm careful about it, and that may be true. But what's often missing, especially for us as we get older, is enough leucine at the right time in the right form. Leucine doesn't just build muscle, it activates the system that tells your body to start building muscle. And that's where things changed for George. We started with something simple. A scoop of high-quality whey protein, isolate, mixed into his morning smoothie. Nothing complicated. No fancy supplements, just a small addition to what he was already doing, whey protein. Especially the isolate form is one of the richest natural sources of leucine available. It delivers the right amount quickly, and that's key. You see, our muscles aren't always listening. Especially after 55 or 60, the body develops something called anabolic resistance, meaning it doesn't respond as quickly or strongly to the normal signals for growth. So we have to make that signal louder. Stronger, more direct. That's what leucine does. And the timing of it matters. Studies showed that the first meal of the day is when your body is most sensitive to receiving this message, especially after sleep, when muscle repair is naturally low. So by giving your body a leucine-rich breakfast, you're not just feeding it. You're speaking its language. You're saying, it's time to rebuild. Let me tell you what George started doing. Every morning about 30 minutes after waking, he would mix together 1 scoop of whey protein, isolate around 25 to 30 grams of protein, 1 or 2, a banana, a bit of almond milk, a small handful of oats or flaxseed. That simple shake gave him the 5 to 3 grams of leucine needed to trigger mTOR and begin that repair process. Some mornings he'd have eggs instead. 2 or 3 whole eggs also an excellent source of leucine, with a slice of whole grain toast and some sautéed spinach. It wasn't a diet. It wasn't a plan. It was just a small, intentional change in how he began his day, and it made a world of difference. Within a week, George reported that he could rise from a chair more easily. A few more days, and he found himself walking longer without needing to pause. He even started helping his daughter in the garden again. something he hadn't felt up for in a long while. And what's beautiful is that it wasn't about pushing himself harder, it was about giving his muscles the right message. Now, if you're thinking, I don't want shakes, that's okay. There are other options. Cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, lean poultry like chicken or turkey, all are great sources of leucine. The goal isn't to eat more, it's to eat smarter, to make sure you're including at least one food in the morning that gives you a solid dose of this powerful amino acid. So often we fall into the habit of light breakfasts, a piece of toast, a cup of coffee, but those don't tell your muscles much. They're like whispers, when what your body really needs is a clear voice saying, "Wake up, it's time to move." For George, the change wasn't just physical. He told me something that stuck. It wasn't just that my legs felt stronger. It was like I remembered what it felt like to feel capable again. That's the gift of restoring these systems. We're not just building muscle. We're restoring confidence, mobility, independence. And that's something we all deserve to feel at any age. So if you try nothing else from today's video, I hope you'll try this. Start your day with a leucine-rich meal. Whether it's shake some eggs or a bowl of Greek yogurt with nuts, give your muscles the message they need. Because even though your body may have been quiet for a while, it hasn't forgotten how to respond. It just needs the right cue. Now, we've talked about flipping on the muscle switch, but that's just one side of the story. Muscles can't move without the go-ahead from your nervous system. And there's another key nutrient just as important that helps your brain talk to your legs with clarity and speed. It's not new, it's not exotic, and if you eat eggs, you're already halfway there. Let's take a look at that next section. 3. Reconnect the nerve pathway. Acetylcholine and choline. When we think about movement, walking, standing, even just shifting weight from one leg to the other, we often think about muscles. But there's something even more important working behind the scenes. It's the connection between your brain and your muscles. Let's picture it together. Your brain wants to move it. Sends out a message like a letter in the mail. That message travels down through your spinal cord along nerves until it reaches the muscle. The muscle gets the message and acts. But for many of us, especially after 55 or 60, something happens along the way. The message gets garbled, delayed. Sometimes it doesn't arrive at all. That's not just imagination, it's biology. And it all comes down to a remarkable little molecule called acetylcholine, the messenger that helps our nerves and muscles communicate. Acetylcholine is what's known as a neurotransmitter. It acts like the postman between your nervous system and your muscle fibers. Every time you decide to move to get up from your chair to reach for your glasses, acetylcholine is what makes it happen. But here's the challenge: as we get older, our bodies produce less acetylcholine and our muscles become less sensitive to the little that's left. So even though your brain says, "Let's move," the signal gets weaker. The command doesn't land the way it used to. And that's when we start feeling things like slower reaction time, hesitation when we rise from sitting, that sense of our legs lagging behind our intentions. It's frustrating, and for many of us, a little frightening. But here's the uplifting part. The body still knows how to make acetylcholine. It just needs the raw materials, and one of the most powerful ones is a nutrient called choline. Choline is a building block for acetylcholine. Think of it like the ink your body needs to write that letter from brain to muscle. Without enough choline, the messages get fuzzy. With enough, the lines of communication open up again. Now, where do we find choline? The richest, most natural source. Egg yolks. Yes, simple, affordable, humble eggs. 2 whole eggs provide over 300 milliliters of choline, which is right in the sweet spot for restoring healthy levels. Let me share a story. Linda, a retired school teacher in her early 70s, came to me saying her legs just didn't feel under her anymore. She hadn't fallen, but she felt unstable. Especially in the morning, she was cutting back on activities, skipping morning walks, and worst of all, she said, "I don't trust my legs anymore." We didn't start with exercise. We didn't start with medications. We started with breakfast. I asked her to do just one thing: eat 2 whole eggs every morning, ideally about 30 minutes after waking, and pair it with another source of protein, like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese to boost the muscle signal even more. Within the first week, Linda noticed her legs feeling steadier. By week 2, she was back to her walks, slowly, carefully but walking. Now, it wasn't just the eggs, it was the choline supporting acetylcholine production, and it was the timing taking advantage of the brain's natural rhythm to restore that vital line of communication. First thing in the morning, science backs this up too. In a review published in the journal Nutrients, researchers found that increasing choline intake can boost acetylcholine levels within 6 to 12 hours, especially in the motor neurons that control the legs and hips. What does this mean for us? It means that the decline. We sometimes feel the hesitation in our steps, the imbalance. The little stumbles may be biological miscommunication, not inevitable breakdown. And more importantly, it means we can do something about it. Now, if you don't eat eggs, whether it's for health reasons, allergies, or personal preference, don't worry. There are plant-based sources of choline, too. Soybeans, quinoa, Brussels sprouts, and broccoli all contain choline, though in smaller amounts. It may take a little more planning to reach the same level, but it's absolutely possible. The key is consistency and timing. Here's what I told Linda, and what I'll gently suggest to you. When you wake up in the morning, your acetylcholine levels are at their lowest. That's why we can feel groggy or stiff or unsteady first thing. By eating a choline-rich breakfast within an hour of waking, and ideally following it with just 10-15 minutes of light movement, you're helping your brain and muscles reconnect. Think of it like turning on the lights and opening the blinds, letting your nervous system know we're awake now and we're ready to move. Linda's routine became simple but powerful. 2 whole eggs lightly cooked to preserve nutrients. A slice of whole grain toast or a scoop of cottage cheese. A short walk to her mailbox and back, just 10 minutes. And a cup of tea in the sunshine when she could manage it. She wasn't trying to train like an athlete. She was simply feeding her body the signals it needed. And little by little those signals came back. She told me recently with a smile, "I don't feel like I'm falling apart anymore. I feel like I'm reassembling myself." That's the beauty of this work. It's not about reversing time. It's about restoring connection. Helping our bodies and minds talk to each other again, after years of static on the line. So as you plan your next breakfast, I invite you to think beyond calories and carbs. Think of it as your morning message from your brain to your muscles, saying, "I'm here, let's move." Now we've addressed how to wake up the muscles with leucine, and how to reconnect brain and body with choline. But there's one more major piece in this puzzle, something many of us don't think about until it becomes a problem: circulation. Because even if your muscles and nerves are ready to go, they still need fuel, and that fuel travels through your bloodstream. In our next section, we'll explore how a vibrant root-colored vegetable can help increase blood flow, especially to the legs, in just hours. Let's walk through that next. Section 4. Boost blood flow, nitric oxide, and beets. Let's take a quiet moment to talk about something we don't usually feel happening, but it affects us every second of every day: our circulation. For many of us over 55, our legs don't feel as alive as they used to. They feel heavy, a bit slower sometimes, even numb or cold. It's not always pain. Sometimes it's just this quiet sense that the legs aren't getting the message or the energy. What's going on? More often than not, it's not a strength issue, it's a fuel delivery issue. and that fuel, oxygen, nutrients, vitamins gets to our legs through blood flow, through tiny capillaries and arteries that have to stay open, flexible, and active. But with age, those vessels tend to narrow. They get stiffer, more sluggish, blood flow decreases, and when that happens, our muscles feel tired. Not because they can't work, but because they're not getting the gas they need to go. Now, if you've ever had to garden with a kinked hose, you'll understand this perfectly. You can have all the water in the world, but if the hose is bent or blocked, the plants won't get what they need. Your legs and your circulation are no different, but here's the hopeful part. We now know that there's a natural, beautiful way to restore that flow, and it comes from a bright, earthy vegetable you've likely seen in the produce aisle many times. Beets. Yes, simple, humble beets. Now, I know not everyone loves the taste of beets. For some of us, they remind us of old canned recipes. But once you understand what they do, you might start seeing them in a whole new light. Beets are rich in something called nitrates. And when we eat foods high in nitrates, our body converts them into a gas called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is like a personal trainer for your blood vessels. It tells them to open up to relax and to let more blood flow through to the places that need it. Most like your legs, your heart, your brain. And here's the amazing part. This can happen within just hours of eating them. Let me tell you about Edna. Edna is 74. She's always been independent, lived alone since her husband passed, keeps her house spotless, still drives to church every Sunday. But she came to me because she was starting to feel fatigue in her thighs every time she walked from her living room to the kitchen. That's maybe 20 steps. She'd get there and feel winded, shaky. We checked everything. Her heart was fine. Her muscle mass hadn't changed much, but her circulation. Her legs were getting less oxygen. Not enough blood was reaching the muscles during activity. So we added one simple step to her routine. Each morning, Edna started drinking a small beet smoothie about an hour before her usual activity, whether it was tidying the house, walking to the mailbox, or going to the store. Just one small glass, one small cooked beet, half a banana, a splash of orange juice or water, and a handful of spinach or arugula. Within the week, she noticed a change. Not dramatic, but enough that she called me and said, "I don't feel like I have to rest halfway through my morning anymore." That's nitric oxide at work. Now studies support what Edna experienced. A paper published in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that older adults who drank beetroot juice had a noticeable boost in leg strength and endurance just a few hours after consumption. The improvement was most obvious in the fast-twitch fibers, the very ones that help us stay balanced and catch ourselves if we stumble. This isn't about turning us into athletes. It's about helping us stay steady, move with confidence, and enjoy our daily routines without feeling like our legs are made of lead. Now, a common concern I hear is, aren't beets high in sugar? And it's true they have natural sugars, but their glycemic load is relatively low, especially when you pair them with a protein or fiber source like Greek yogurt nuts or greens. In fact, combining beets with a little bit of light movement like a 15-minute walk actually enhances nitric oxide production even more. It's like pumping the hose a few times after you unkink it, making sure the water flows freely. So here's a simple morning plan, if you'd like to try this at home. Start with a beet smoothie, or about 1 and 2 small beets about an hour before you expect to move more. Go for a gentle walk, even just around the block or through your hallway. Follow it with a protein-rich meal like eggs or yogurt to fuel your muscles. This helps open the vessels, deliver nutrients, and activate those muscle fibers that may have been waiting quietly for support. If you are not a fan of smoothies, you can try roasted beets, beet powder mixed into tea, or even beet juice diluted with water. The key is consistency. and listening to how your body responds. I remember Edna's face the next time I saw her. She stood up from the waiting room chair with ease, and she looked at me with that spark in her eye. I didn't think something so simple could help me feel this much better. That's the gift of working with our biology instead of against it. And beets aren't the only helper here. Leafy greens like arugula, kale, and spinach are also rich in natural nitrates and help support circulation, which brings us to something we all live with often without knowing it's there: inflammation. That slow, quiet burn that makes movement harder, muscles stiffer, and energy lower. In our next section, we'll talk about how this silent fire works and how another set of humble foods, especially the dark, leafy greens, can help cool it down and restore vitality to your legs. Let's look at that next, section 5. Fight the silent fire, inflammation, and leafy greens. There's a kind of fire that doesn't glow or burn the skin. It doesn't announce itself with sharp pain or fever. It just simmers quietly inside the body, and over time, it wears us down. This fire is called chronic inflammation, and it's one of the most overlooked reasons our legs feel stiffer, slower, or simply tired, even when we're doing all the right things. Now, inflammation isn't always bad. In fact, it's your body's natural way of healing after injury or illness. But chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind that builds up over years of stress, processed foods, and wear on the body, is a different story. This kind of inflammation doesn't help us heal. It keeps the body in a state of low alert, where it becomes harder to repair muscles, recover from exertion, and coordinate movement, especially in the legs. And when that quiet inflammation combines with poor circulation or weak nerve signals, it can feel like we're walking through water. Every step just takes more effort. But once again, the body gives us a way forward, and this time the solution doesn't come in a bottle or a prescription. It comes from something many of us grew up eating from our own gardens, or watching our aunties prepare with care: dark, leafy greens, spinach, kale, mustard greens, Swiss chard, arugula. These foods aren't just healthy, they're powerful. They contain natural compounds like polyphenols, chlorophyll, magnesium, and even natural nitrates, all of which help the body calm the inflammatory response and return to balance. Let me introduce you to Carl. Carl is 68. He used to be a line cook, strong arms, quick on his feet, always smiling. But after retirement, he started slowing down. He blamed it on aging arthritis, just getting old, he'd say. But when we looked more closely, something else came to light. His markers for inflammation like CRP, C-reactive protein, and IL-6, interleukin-6, were elevated. Not dangerously high, but high enough to interfere with muscle repair coordination and energy. Carl wasn't lazy. He wasn't losing muscle because of age. His body was simply stuck in a cycle of quiet inflammation, like a machine trying to run with the brakes on. So we tried something simple. Not pills, not a restrictive diet. Just 1 cup of dark leafy greens every morning with his breakfast. That was it. Spinach and eggs sautéed in olive oil, a kale and mushroom scramble, a smoothie with frozen greens and banana. Whatever worked for him, as long as the greens were there. We paired it with a little healthy fat like avocado or olive oil to help absorb important vitamins like Ka and beta-carotene. And some mornings he'd squeeze a little lemon or add a splash of apple cider vinegar, which helps the stomach absorb minerals better. Within a couple of weeks, Carl felt different. Not just stronger, less inflamed. His knees didn't ache after a short walk. He wasn't winded after folding laundry. He told me something simple but profound. I don't feel swollen on the inside anymore. And that's exactly what chronic inflammation feels like. Like something is swollen just beneath the surface, slowing everything down. Now science supports what Carl felt. A study published in Frontiers in Pharmacology showed that quercetin, a natural compound found in kale and mustard greens, can lower inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha, the very molecules that interfere with muscle strength and coordination. Another study from the Journals of Gerontology found that older adults with higher intakes of leafy greens showed better physical performance and leg strength even after adjusting for exercise and protein intake. So if you're someone who's already walking, already eating better, but still feels like your body isn't bouncing back the way it should, inflammation may be the missing piece. And the good news: the solution is gentle, natural, and familiar. Let's talk about how to use greens effectively. First, eat them early in the day. Why? Because our circadian rhythm, our internal clock, plays a role in regulating inflammation. Eating anti-inflammatory foods in the morning helps set the tone for the rest of the day. Second pair: your greens with healthy fat, like a drizzle of olive oil, some avocado. A few chopped nuts to help your body absorb fat-soluble nutrients like vitamin K and lutein, both of which support muscle and nerve function. Make it easy. If you don't enjoy cooking greens every morning, try adding a handful of frozen spinach into your eggs or smoothie, prepping a container of sautéed kale to reheat throughout the week. Using baby greens as a base for your breakfast with eggs or grains on top. The goal isn't perfection, it's presence. Just get the greens in. Now a word of patience. Unlike beets or protein shakes, the effects of anti-inflammatory foods are gentle and gradual. You might not notice a dramatic shift overnight, but give it a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. You may find yourself rising from your chair more smoothly, feeling less stiff after sitting, or simply noticing that your body doesn't feel as heavy to carry. That's the inflammation cooling down. That's your body finding its balance again. And that's the strength returning not just to your legs but to your spirit. Carl once told me as he stirred his morning greens. It's not just that I feel better, it's that I feel like I'm back in conversation with my body. And that's our goal here. Not perfection, not youth, but reconnection. So far, we've helped your muscles wake up with leucine, reconnect the nerves with choline, increase blood flow with beets, and lower the inflammation with greens. There's just one more piece we need to talk about, and it may be the most overlooked: timing. Because when you eat these foods, not just what you eat makes all the difference in how your body responds, especially after 55. Let's walk through that next. Section 6. Meal timing and the muscle clock. There's a quiet rhythm to our bodies, a kind of music playing underneath the surface that keeps everything in sync. Our sleep, our digestion, our energy, and, yes, even our muscle strength. And at our age, when things start to feel slower or more unpredictable, it's not always because something is broken. Sometimes the rhythm just needs a little help finding its beat again. One of the most overlooked ways to support that rhythm is through meal timing, particularly when it comes to protein. Let me explain. We already know that protein is essential for keeping muscles strong and active. But what many people don't realize is that when we eat protein and how we space it out throughout the day becomes even more important after 55. That's because as we age, our bodies develop something called anabolic resistance. It's a big term for a simple concept. Our muscles stop responding as well to the protein we eat. It's not that the protein isn't helpful, it's that our bodies need more of a signal to wake up and use it. Think of it like trying to get someone's attention across the room. When we were younger, a whisper might have done it. Now we need to speak clearly and at the right time. That's where meal timing comes in. Most people eat their biggest portion of protein at dinner, a chicken breast or a piece of fish, maybe a side of beans. Breakfast, on the other hand, is usually light: a bit of toast, a piece of fruit, maybe coffee. But here's the problem. When you wait all day to give your muscles a strong protein signal, you're missing out on two valuable opportunities to stimulate muscle repair and keep your strength in motion. Let me tell you about June. June is 65. Grandmother of 4, always baking, always on the go, but she started noticing her legs getting tired by mid-afternoon. She didn't feel old, she said, but she felt like her fuel was running out early in the day. When I asked about her meals, she admitted, well, breakfast is usually a muffin or a bit of fruit. Lunch might be a salad, but dinner's the real meal. And that, I gently explained, was the issue. You see, research shows that when we evenly distribute protein across breakfast, lunch, and dinner, aiming for about 30 grams per meal, we support the body's natural muscle-building rhythm far more effectively than when we load it all at once. A study from the University of Texas found that adults who spaced their protein intake throughout the day had 25% greater rates of muscle protein synthesis than those who ate the same amount, mostly at dinner. It wasn't about more protein, it was about timing it better. So with June, we made a few simple changes: a protein-rich breakfast, 2 scrambled eggs, spinach, and a slice of toast with almond butter, a lunch with protein lentil soup, a few slices of turkey or Greek yogurt with berries, a moderate dinner, grilled fish, roasted vegetables, and quinoa. We didn't count calories, we didn't weigh anything. We just aimed for 30 grams of protein at each main meal, and we made sure to front-load the day with the right signals. But there's one more trick that made a big difference for June, and it might for you too. It's called the anabolic window. Now I know that sounds like fitness jargon, but it's actually quite simple. The anabolic window is a 30 to 60-minute period after light activity, like walking, stretching, or gardening, when your muscles become extra receptive to nutrients. It's like the body is saying, "Okay, I'm ready. Send me what I need." So if you eat a meal or snack rich in protein, shortly after light movement, your muscles absorb the amino acids more efficiently, and you get more strength-building benefit from the same food. For example, let's say you go for a 15-minute walk in the morning, just around the block or up and down your hallway. If you follow that with a smoothie that has whey protein and fruit, or a plate of eggs and greens, you're taking advantage of that open window. That small habit, a little movement, followed by a good meal, can amplify the results of everything you're doing. Now I know routines vary. Some of us wake up hungry. Others prefer to eat later. The point isn't to change who you are. It's to work with your body's natural rhythm, not against it. So here's a gentle guideline to help support your muscle clock morning. Within 1 hour of waking, 25 to 30 grams of protein, ideally with choline and greens. This turns on the muscle-building system and improves nerve signaling midday after some movement. Another 25 to 30 grams with fiber-rich carbs and healthy fats. Think lentils and rice or a turkey and avocado sandwich. Evening, keep dinner balanced. Avoid stacking all your protein here. 25 to 30 grams is enough. The rest gets stored or passed through. One last piece of wisdom: don't skip meals even if your appetite is low. Missing a meal means missing one of your 3 daily muscle signals. Over time, that adds up. When June followed this routine, spreading her protein, matching it with light movement, and starting strong in the morning, she told me her body began to feel like it was working with her, not against her. She wasn't eating more. She wasn't working harder. She was just eating in harmony with her biology. That's what we're aiming for. So far, we've talked about the nutrients and signals your body needs. Leucine to turn the muscle switch on. Choline to restore communication between brain and legs. Beets to boost circulation. Leafy greens to cool inflammation. And now the timing, the rhythm that ties it all together. When these elements come together, something beautiful happens. Not just better walking. Not just stronger legs. You feel more capable, more steady, more like yourself. And if there's one small step you can take starting tomorrow, it's to begin your day. Not with something quick and light, but with something powerful and purposeful. Because how we begin the day shapes how we move through it. Now let's bring it all together. Let's take a moment to reflect. Your legs don't just need exercise, they need the right signals. From your nerves, from your food, and from your rhythm. The truth is, your muscles aren't gone. They're waiting to respond, waiting for the right messages. And now you know what some of those messages are. A leucine-rich breakfast to switch on strength. Choline from eggs to restore brain-to-muscle connection. Beets to open up your circulation. Leafy greens to cool the hidden inflammation. And a meal rhythm that works with your body, not against it. If you try one thing tomorrow, make it this: a beet smoothie. A short walk, a breakfast that tells your body, I'm here and I'm ready. If this video helped you feel more hopeful about your health, please subscribe, and share it with someone you care about, because strength doesn't come from age, it comes from action.